When President Biden took office a year ago, some of his first actions were aimed at reforming the country's immigration policies. He's gotten rid of some of the rules from the previous administration, but has also kept a handful of them in place. He's drawn criticism from both opponents and allies for his approach to the issue of immigration. Camilo Montoya Galvez wrote all about this for CBSNews.com and is with me now to discuss his reporting. Camilo, thank you so much for joining us on this topic because, yeah, a lot has changed, but, some things have remained the same. You write that, the main policy, border policy that the president thus far is going to be known for is Title 42. So can we talk about Title 42, what it is, and why this administration has kept it in place?
Hi, good morning, Anne-Marie. The Biden administration was in federal court yesterday to defend this unprecedented border policy that allows U.S. officials to summarily expel migrants and asylum seekers to Mexico or to their home country without allowing them to request U.S. refuge and without screening them for U.S. asylum. This is a policy that the American Civil Liberties Union argues is illegal and violates U.S. and international refugee laws. But the Biden administration, like the Trump administration, has been arguing, Anne-Marie, that this policy is currently needed during this public health crisis because the government needs to restrict migration at the U.S.-Mexico border to reduce the spread of the coronavirus inside migrant detention centers. And that was the main argument that the Biden administration has cited to continue this policy. Border officials have actually cited Title 42, this unprecedented border policy, longer under President Biden than they had under Mr. Trump, who first implemented this in March of 2020. Under the Trump administration, more than 400,000 Title 42 expulsions of migrants were carried out, but the Biden administration, Anne-Marie, has already carried out more than 1 million of these expulsions, so more than double what the Trump administration carried out. However, it is important to note that there have been some changes. The Biden administration has refused to expel unaccompanied children under Title 42. This is a practice that the Trump administration carried out until a federal court said that that is illegal. It has also been expelling a smaller percentage of families with children, but that is mostly due to the fact that Mexican officials have refused to accept Central American families with young children. So this policy remains in place, Anne-Marie, but there are some changes.
That's interesting. Let's talk about legal immigration because the former administration also really curtailed legal immigration. What has the Biden administration been able to roll back, and what sort of, signature moves have they been able to make in regards to legal information?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, I think, sure, no worries, yes. I think this is an area of immigration policy that even the Biden administration would concede has been overshadowed by the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border because of the record number of migrant apprehensions that we saw last year. But the Biden administration has taken numerous steps to reverse Trump-era immigration restrictions that, again, limited who could come here to the U.S. legally or who could stay here legally. The Biden administration, for example, Anne-Marie, has reversed the Trump-era public charge rules, which allowed officials to reject green card applications from low-income immigrants who were deemed to be a public charge or an economic burden on the U.S. society and economy. We also know that the Biden administration has, for this fiscal year, raised the refugee cap to 125,000 spots. That is a huge reversal from the historic low 15,000 person cap that President Trump set before leaving office. It is important to note, however, that that target of 125,000 refugees will likely not be met because of the decimated refugee infrastructure that has been crippled by the pandemic and Trump-era cuts, but that is also currently focused on resettling those tens of thousands of Afghan evacuees, Anne-Marie, that were relocated to the U.S. last summer following the Afghan government's sudden collapse. So that is important to note. And the Biden administration has also restarted an Obama-era program that allows U.S.-based parents to bring their children from Guatemala El Salvador and Honduras to the U.S. legally. This is a policy that's designed to discourage migration of unaccompanied children. So there have been numerous steps taken on this front, but again, I think they have been overshadowed by the lack of progress on the administration's border policy vision.
Camilo, quickly, has Vice President Harris made any progress when it comes to dealing with the root causes of immigration from Central American countries?
I think Vice President Harris knew that this was going to be an arduous task when she assumed this role earlier last year. We know that this is a long-term strategy and that is evaluated really on the number of Central Americans coming to the U.S. border, and those numbers skyrocketed last year. So obviously that does not reflect good on her work, but her argument and her team's argument is that this is, again, a long-term strategy that will have a long-term effect of reducing poverty, climate change displacement, and violence in Central America, and obviously, in turn, reduce the flows of migrants coming to the U.S. border. But I should note, lastly, Anne-Marie, that this task actually will get more difficult because we saw a record number of migrants from outside Central America come to the U.S. border last year, including record numbers of Haitians, Cubans, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans.
You also spoke to Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. What did he say were the top priorities for the administration's immigration policy moving forward?
Yeah, so Secretary Mayorkas told me that one of his top priorities for 2022 is to reform the immigration detention system in the U.S., which is actually the largest immigration detention system in the world. The Biden administration has already closed 2 ICE detention facilities that were plagued by allegations of detainee abuse, and Mayorkas told me, Anne-Marie, that he plans to close additional facilities this year. He also said that another big challenge for the administration is to reduce the massive backlog of immigration court cases and immigration applications at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. There are about 1.6 million pending immigration court cases before the Justice Department. That is a huge all-time high. Mayorkas also said that he plans to expand access to naturalization for eligible permanent residents, and he also plans to issue a dramatic overhaul of the asylum process that would allow asylum officers to fully adjudicate cases of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border rather than transferring their cases to the backlogged immigration courts. So these are some of the policy initiatives that the Biden administration hopes to put forward this year. But again, this could all be affected by another sharp increase in migration at the U.S.-Mexico border.
All right, Camilo, thank you very much.